Good morning, traders. Today is February. Sorry. Today is Friday, December 9th. My name is Charles, and this is the Pirate Traders live stream. I did that thing this morning where I started live streaming to nobody. I clicked on the wrong stream, and I told them the whole story of everything that was happening today, and then I realized there was no one in the chat. Awesome. Anyway, here we are. So the market's about to open. Nothing for us to worry about. We're opening inside the previous day's range. Just like yesterday, opening inside the previous day's range increases the probability of chop. So we don't really need to be in a rush to know what the market's going to do. We are opening above the previous balance area low. This is obviously the area that the market is kind of stuck in the moment, stuck between what we would call that balance area low and that node at 39.69 that we call the node of death. So really, it's kind of between those two levels that I mainly focused this morning. We could call it yesterday's range. So if we're able to push, I said the exact same thing yesterday. If we're able to push below yesterday's low and find resistance there, I would be looking for continuation lower as a breakout of balance to the downside. Right? We tested it. We tried to go back in, couldn't get back in. If we pull back down below today, that is a look in that failed, and it's looking to go lower now. So if we're able to get below yesterday's low, I would definitely be getting bearish for further downside continuation. But this exact same thing would be true if we got above yesterday's high in the opposite direction. Getting above yesterday's high would be the market telling us that it is finding support inside of the previous balance area, which increases the odds of a rotation to the opposite end. Also, if we get today's high above yesterday's high, we've begun a trend higher. We would then have 2 days in a row of higher highs and higher lows, and 2 days in a row of value being higher. So in that scenario, we also get very bullish very quickly. So, I know I said it yesterday, but as long as we're bouncing around inside yesterday's range, it's going to be chop, and we're just going to keep grinding up and down. Got to get below yesterday's low to have any certainty of continuation lower, or above yesterday's high for any certainty higher. It's also Friday. Going to be lots of 0 days looking to expire today. So the market going nowhere is also an option, and just getting another day of balance in this range. John Lash, important stuff. Putin said he won't sell oil. Yeah, I saw that. You know what? I'm not worried about it at all. I know that drives you guys crazy, but I'm not worried about that. They liquidated on the news and then immediately retraced. So I really think a lot of what is at play these days in the market is just the mechanism of options. Like the market makers that sell options can't let the market tank today for some reason. We know because Putin talked about using nukes yesterday and they wouldn't let it tank, or 2 days ago. And they just held the market right up. So I don't think the oil is going to make any difference. All right, so we're going to consider the low here weak because it was all buyers. It was 39 contracts and they were all buyers. So we know there's still business to be had down there. First sign of more chop. All right, so this area just above price, between like 39.60 and 39.66 in here, this is an important area, okay? Because this is where we were running out of steam before, right? This is what was resistance. And yesterday it was becoming support. It's where the market was building momentum. And then the overnight held there. They spent most of the overnight, trading above that level, using that as support as well. So it was really just the news, the news about Putin, and there were some numbers too that came out that brought the market lower. So if the market can get back up through this resistance once again, it would mean that was just a liquidation break, and we can look for continuation. Microsoft got sued too. Bring it on. Bring on the bad news. Bring on the bearishness. We don't care. Andrew says, do you see any volume in the overnight session at 39.60? No, that's obviously where the break took place. They got single prints. But we backfilled them. Mir says liquidation was more PPI. Could be. That's my point. Is it doesn't really matter. What matters is how the market reacts to the reaction. Once they liquidate, whatever it was that caused the liquidation, do they just retrace? Are they like, no problem, we'll come right back where we were? Or do they get new selling that takes them lower? Okay, so we opened inside the previous day's range. So we know we're in a chop zone. We know the market is not likely to just go straight up. It's likely to come back down and have to find support and go back up again and down and up and down and up. We know we're entering an area where we've got some strong resistance above. Okay. And we look over here at the book map and we see a lot of the buyers up here are actually shorts that are getting stopped out. They're those sellers that tried to get short down here after the bad news, and they're just starting to get squeezed. Those are actually the people buying right now. So I still see this as chop and not bullish yet. The true test will be when they pull down. Can they find support at the halfback, 39.54, or wherever it is when they pull back down. Chilling with Dylan says, all my crypto bros have been really sad lately. Well, that goes to show they don't know what they're doing. They should be excited. All the things that they love are on sale. They should be having a buying frenzy. All right, I'm going to consider this high weak right now because it's in such a precarious location. This is right where the overnight ran out of steam 2 nights ago. It's just a point away from where we closed yesterday, and an area where the overnight market brought in a lot of volume. So I'm going to consider that weak. And again, seeing weakness on both sides of the market, a weak high and a weak low, that is a sign you're going to get more chop. So here's our chance. We're back at that halfback, 39.54. If they can hold it for support, they can come back up to repair the weak high. If they push back through, they're heading down for the low. And they'll just keep chopping until they can turn this halfback into either support or resistance. So for now, it's holding. But we have ourselves a place to chop it up. Greg H says, you coached on preserving mental capital. That was excellent advice. I followed it yesterday and traded better, plus fewer trades and less exhaustion. Yeah, and it adds up. It does those little tricks to do things like protect your mental capital. It may have helped a little bit yesterday, but if you do it, today and tomorrow and the next day, if every time the market is in a place where you don't know, you just don't try. Oh man, it just makes trading easier over the long run. But thank you for saying so. Okay, there's a repair of the week high. All right, so next resistance we're expecting is on the repair of 69. So we're looking for the market to poke up there, get a few ticks above, and then pull back down. Again, can that halfback hold as support? We've also now finally gotten the ticks back to the zero line. So we'll find out if there are more buyers or sellers in the market, or if this is just shorts getting squeezed. Can they keep those ticks above the zero line, or do they get smacked back down? Okay, so they pushed back up above 69. They repaired that weak reference, but the ticks got smacked right back down instantly. So we know that that was just the market hunting for the liquidity. There were people that put their stops up there, people who were shorting, and the market was just poking up to catch their liquidity. So now if the market can hold above the halfback here, hold above 30.58, and get those ticks back above the zero line, I will get bullish for continuation, because we squeezed those traders we needed to squeeze. So if new buyers step in now, they're heading up to test yesterday's high. So I'm keeping an eye on those ticks. Can they get back to the zero line? Can support hold? David asks, can I clarify why 69 was a weak reference? I don't remember anymore. I deleted it now. M period high. Weak M period high from yesterday. Okay, moment of truth. The only clue we ever get in a chop zone is, can the halfback hold? If they can turn this into support and pop those ticks back up, they can head up for the high. But if they pass back through halfback again, it means they're heading down for the lows, and the chop will continue. Can they hold it? It would appear the answer is no, they cannot. So the chop continues. Uncertainty in this market. Uncertainty. All right, round 3. Can they hold it? Nicholas, choppy market, time for a like button. I couldn't agree more. I think that's a great philosophy. The more the market chops, the more likes I get. Although I have a feeling it's the opposite. They're trying. Can they hold it? Nope. Not yet. Mike asks, Charles, will the Michigan sentiment news have any effect? It will certainly cause a little chop. It'll cause a little spike of movement for sure. Will it cause any bigger move in the market? I doubt it. As I've said, I feel like the principle at work right now is a mechanism that has to do with the options market and where they need the market to close. So I think it's going to take a pretty big piece of news to break it. It could happen. I just don't know if sentiment is enough. Morty says Michigan burns me every time, blows my stops like clockwork. Yeah, that's a good reason to know it's coming. Is like if you're in a trade with a tight stop, maybe you just get out because you know there's gonna be some kind of volatility, some kind of reaction. Falcon 1, do you think the market will drop in the future? What time frame are you asking in the future? Like in the next few minutes or over the next few months? The futures rolling over shouldn't really have any effect on anything. It's the options markets. Falcon in the next year? Yeah, for sure. No doubt about it. The way I'm looking at it is that downtrend on the daily. Until we break that, we ain't going nowhere. So this right here, as long as this keeps working, I would say the market is still very bearish. If you're looking for the market to go lower, we got to break back below this balance area, come back down, test this support for this uptrend. If that breaks, yes, sir. We can make a move. I said it on this day that we were on the trend line. I said, if today fails, we opened like right on the line and we were rotating. And I said, if the way today plays out, we go lower, we could get another one of these. Okay. And I still believe that to be true. Now, not intraday today, obviously, but it's still possible. Okay, so now we're asking the question, is halfback becoming resistance? Or do we push back through to the upside? And we just do this all day long until they finally break out of the chop zone. They come back. We go, does it act as resistance? If so, we look for it to test the lows. If not, we look for more chop. When it pushes up and comes back down, we look for support. If so, we look to test the highs. If not, we look for more chop. And we just let it chop around. All right, that's going to be that Michigan news sentiment. So I bet if we look at Bookmap, it probably went dark just now. Whoops. Yep. So as long as you see where all the volume disappeared, all the liquidity disappeared instantly, as long as it's dark like this, that's just the bots, the news bots, scrambling to try to get in and out of positions. Once we start to see the color come back in above and below price, then we know real market participants are beginning to join. Until then, as long as it's dark like this, it's just those bots. Hence why I said earlier, if you were in a trade with a tight stop, you might choose to just get out. Let them do this volatility and then figure out what happens as a result at the end. Falcon, can big players just buy, or does there have to be sellers? There has to be sellers. So if a big player tries to buy right now and he buys every contract that somebody is willing to sell, then the price of the market goes up a tick. So if somebody comes in with a large size and they try to just buy the market, they push the market up. So if he's got large size and he wants to get in here, he's got to keep the market coming back again and again and again and again so that he can build that position slowly down here at this price rather than trying to get in and push the market higher. Something that is very common for the first hour of the day as well. You can go back and see it. I always point people towards that Paul Tudor Jones video I made. If you haven't watched it, you really should. It's from the 80s, and they're doing it then. Paul Tudor Jones wants to buy the Dow right at the opening bell. He's buying up all he can, but the market starts to move in his favor. The Dow starts to move higher because he's buying with massive size. So he decides to trick the floor traders. He's going to start to unload. So he takes the shares he just bought and he starts to sell them at market at, fill or kill orders. Like, I need to get out of this. And then all those floor traders, they start to panic. And so then they start to sell, and then he can buy it back again at the price that he wants to. Now, in this particular video, he ended up losing that day, but it just shows you how they try to play those games. If they can't get the size they want, they have to play some games. They have to unload a little bit, buy a little bit more, unload a little bit, buy. That's how they get their size. And of course, nowadays, that's not a guy on the phone calling another guy who's yelling at another guy who's running around with slips of paper, trying to trade those slips with another guy. Now it's just all done by computers in a fraction of a second. All right, speaking of done by computers in a fraction of a second, we are starting to get that liquidity coming back into the market now. So now we can start to trust whatever the market does from here. So once again, we're back into the can they make support? If so, look to test the high, or do they push through and get more chop? Falcon 1, the markets is big players trying to find liquidity to get in and out. Yes, sir. That's our business. We are their liquidity. That's what day traders are. We have a job in the market. We make it possible for the bigger traders to move their money around. And in exchange for being willing to take on that risk, we are presented with enormous potential rewards. But it ain't easy. It ain't easy beating the big boys. They're usually the ones on the right side of the trade. Rocket speed, are you going long or short or sitting idle? If you look at the bottom of the screen, you will see it says, I do not enter trades in chop. It's impossible to predict. So before I enter trades, I need to see that support. We've been talking about it over and over again. I need to see the market create the support. Then I know, okay, for sure, it's heading to the opposite. And then it's not a guess anymore. I have a little bit of a probability in my favor, right? But as long as it's still chopping, as long as we haven't been able to create good support, it's a guess. I don't put money at risk for a guess. In an absolute worst case scenario, I just got to wait to get to yesterday's high or yesterday's low. And there'll definitely be an opportunity to trade there. One way or to other. Breakout or fail. All right, moment of truth. Can they create some support? Can they hold it? All right, so the support held. They just pulled down there to just above the halfback and it held. So that's the first check. Check. Now can they hold the ticks above the zero line? Bulls seem to be running out of time. I would say exactly the opposite. Time is on their side. Yes, it is. All the time they spend inside balance increases the odds. We're going up. Remember, when we come back to test a balance area low, if they want the market to go lower, that's where they'll do it. So if we don't go lower and we pull back up into balance, it means we got to take the market higher looking for sellers up there. So if the market works its way up to yesterday's high, and we have no idea until it gets there what's going to happen. We're in a chop zone. Anything could happen. Sure, we could break lower. Things could get messy. We could just go sideways all day and go nowhere. But if when we get up here, if we get new buyers up here, well, all of a sudden, we're back in balance, heading up towards the opposite end. We've got a higher high and a higher low on the daily. We're trending. All of a sudden, things get very bullish. So I would argue as long as we spend time up here, time is on the side of the bulls. Speaking of not being on the side of the bulls, momentum's not on the side of the bulls. Couldn't keep those ticks. The market is still chopping. More indecision. Man, that's like the fifth time it's held. There's just nobody doing business. There's no sellers trying to break it lower and no buyers trying to buy it higher. There's just no business. All right, well, clearly halfback is not going to hold as support, so now we switch. Does it become resistance? Wyatt, is there a video on what your chart shows? Oh, there's not just a video, Wyatt. There's a whole series of them. It's about 14 videos over a 4.5-hour period of time where you will learn not only how to read the chart, but how to understand the two-way auction process and understand the process of developing a system for yourself. It's called the Market Profile e-course, and there is a link in the description. The one right next to the little brain. Ross, I see you trade the ES. Any thoughts on ES versus NQ? Yeah, it's a more volatile market, harder to read, harder to predict, harder to create probabilities around its behaviors. It's just much more erratic. It's also much more influenced by the individual stocks within it. So say a single company like, Apple, Amazon, Facebook, Google, any of those, one of those companies can have an event take place, piece of news comes out, whatever, and it affects the whole indices in a very, very large way, whereas that will have less of an effect on the S&P 500. Some, but less. So you just end up with a much more reliable, easier to read market. MQ, are there any free tools for market profile chart? Yeah, just Google it. There's a million of them. I mean, you can get it through Sierra Charts. You have to pay for, but you can get it through Sierra Charts. You can get it through Ninja Trader. You can get it through Trade Evade. You can get it through a bunch of different places. You can get it through the Pirate Traders on YouTube. Thank you, Thomas. Okay, back below it again. Playing the game that seems to never end. Can they turn that halfback into resistance? 39.58. We still have a weak low. So if they can turn it into resistance, it means that they're likely going to try to head down and repair that weak low. Informity, could we take a gander at the Qs? Well, let's look at the NQ on the market profile. That's easier than looking at the Qs. I mean, it's exactly the same as the ES. So you're right on your previous balance area low. So bigger picture, they're trying to decide, do they want to take the market lower or do they still not know? Okay. And you're inside the previous day's range. So it's a little bit bullish the more time you spend up here above that balance area low. But before you can trust anything, you got to get above yesterday's high. Find support up there. If you do, you're targeting the opposite end of balance. If you get below yesterday's low, you're looking at a break. I mean, you don't even need yesterday's low. You could get below the overnight low. Hell, now I would say even... Yeah, I would say even the opening price. So if the Q were to push below the opening price now and find resistance there, I would look for it to go lower. But right now it's in a chop zone. It's just chopping it up. All right, so now let's go look at the QQQ. Yeah, so those levels to watch on the QQQ is going to be yesterday's high at 284.85. Yesterday's low at 279.92. So you know if they can push above the high and find support, they're looking for continuation. If they can push below the low and find resistance, they're looking for continuation. Or you look for opportunities to trade the chop in the middle. Right? So you say to yourself, all right, I'm either going to step aside and do nothing as long as we're chopping in the middle, or I'm just going to get like, you know, an iron condor or a butterfly or something and just trade the chop. Because the Q is chopping it up. Corn's back above 17. Bitcoin, dude. Talk about a balance area. Look at that. Textbook. Pew, pew, pew. So as I've been saying for a few days, Bitcoin, same story. Whichever way it breaks out of this, it's going to make a bigger move. It's either going to move up looking for resistance around 20,000 or it's going down to 14. So much indecision happening here. Why that is quite obviously clear. Putin's talking about nukes and not selling oil unless he gets more money for it. Burn, theta, burn. Esco says, I know. Well, I was just thinking about that last night. Like, it's very scary to me. Let's go back to the ES. It's very scary to me that, like, this is where they introduce those 0-day, everyday options, you know? And it's like, shit, since then, it just seems like all we do is stay stuck in one spot and then make a big break. We stay stuck in one spot and a huge break. Stuck in one spot, huge break. Stuck in one spot, huge break. It's like over and over again. Yeah, but at least we got the soccer. And Christmas is coming. Chris, what underlying are 0-day options for? I'm not sure. I know for sure the futures, the indices. I don't know if they do it for the stocks. That'd be a good question for the chat. I don't know about SPX, but I know for SPY they do. Well, would you look at that? B period inside of A period, which is inside of yesterday's range. Our POC is at the same place as yesterday's POC, and now C period is inside of B period. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present you a market imbalance. So this is a market that is just rotating. It doesn't know where it wants to go. Okay? We can literally just look at it. Look at the market in 3 dimensions right now. The place where over and over again for weeks we keep coming back to the one and only node of death. Let's take it back. Let's go back to, we'll take it all the way back to, 4 months ago. Market crashes and burns, comes down to where does it find support and start to have that two-sided trade? Start to try to decide, does it want to go higher or lower? Right here at 39.69. That's that sweet spot. That's that magnet that keeps pulling price back to it again and again. So the market tries to go lower. Fails to go lower. And when it comes back up, what happens when it gets back to that 69 level? Boom, comes right back up to it, and then the two-sided trade starts again. And the market just, magnet tries to go up, pulls it back, goes lower, pulls it back, goes higher, tries to break out to the upside. What does it do? right back down to 69, where it builds up the steam to just keep on trying. It wants to keep on trying. But again, it can't get nowhere. It's going nowhere. So where does it come back to? 69 right away. First thing, back to 69. And then what happens? It goes sideways. So the long and the short of it is, this is just an area the market likes to do business. There is something about this number. 39.60. I assume it's 39.70, by the way. It's an options thing. But 39.69. There is something about this number that this market is just deeply in love with. And it's going to take a bit to get away. So to me, today presents us with the opportunity to make that break. But we don't want to guess ahead of time that it's going to make that break away from 69. So the thing we want to see it get through 69, get up to yesterday's high, and find some support up there. I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, if we find that support, I will get so bullish so quick. But I will not trust it until we do. An exact same thing for yesterday's low. I'm going to just assume if this market looks like it wants to go lower, I'm just going to assume that magnet, that sweet, sweet 69, is just going to bring the market right back. Unless we can get below yesterday's low and find resistance there. So unfortunately, until we either break yesterday's range one direction or another and get continuation, I think we're in a chop zone. Enjoy your Friday. Enjoy your chop. Enjoy your weekend. And we will see you here on Monday morning. Thank you very much.